I am dressed for the occasion. Someone was on it this morning. With cinnamon, of course. Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 7 of B.Hooked TV. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am especially excited about this episode because I love plaid. I love plaid this time of year, but the thing I love more than plaid is crochet plaid. Yes, that is a thing. Yes, it is insanely popular right now, last year, several years ago. It's something that you should definitely give a try if you're looking to shake things up, maybe add a little bit more color to some of your traditional projects. And there are so many designers out there creating amazing patterns using plaid colorwork crochet. So there are a few different ways you can crochet plaid, and I want to show you 3 of those ways today. One is super easy. If you know how to do a basic color change and surface crochet, that's a big hint there, you'll definitely know how to do that one. We'll also talk about 2 other colorwork crochet techniques that you can use to create plaid. Now, real quick, I want to show you what yarn I will be demonstrating with today, and this is one of my favorites. This is Lion Brand Woolies. A big thank you to Lion Brand, of course, for sponsoring this season of B.Hooked TV. But Woolies has always been one of my go-to wool yarns for a couple different reasons. One, it's really easy to find. You can walk in just about any craft store and find this yarn. The second reason I like it is it's super affordable. So if you know you want to crochet a big project like an Afghan or a big sweater or something like that, you're not gonna break the bank. Now this is an 80%, 20% blend. So 80% acrylic, 20% wool. And because of that, it is washable and dryable, which leads me to the biggest reason why I love this yarn. You can throw it in the washer and the dryer, you can make garments with it, and know that you can actually wash them and not have to worry about it. So Woolies is, like I said, available in many, many different retailers, but I also want to include a link in the video description below where you can see all the different colorways on lionbrand.com. If you find this yarn is right for your next project, which by the way, you can work hats, sweaters, blankets, scarves, like really, you can do just about any type of project with this yarn. And I know that doesn't help you out, but if you have a specific project in mind and you know you need a yarn that's washable and dryable, that's easy to find, that's affordable to buy, and that's really soft and has like a nice squish to it. I mean, there's really no other way to describe it. Consider Woolies. And if you want to help out the show, just visit that link in the video description below. If you do decide that it's right for your next project and you purchase through that link, many, many thanks to you, of course, because Lion Brand is sponsoring this season of B.Hooked TV. When you go through that link, that helps me, it helps them, it helps you, it helps everybody because they're a sponsor of the show. So thank you. So let's start off with method number 1. Now this one doesn't have a particular name. I just like to call it the stripes and surface crochet method. And that's literally where you just crochet all of the horizontal lines in your plaid pattern by just changing colors as you go. You create the stripes or the blocks. You can do it 1 row at a time. You can do 4 or 5 rows at a time. It's really going to be dependent on your color diagram. And by the way, I will walk you through an easy way to set one of those up in just a little bit. But for now, just know that when you do this method, you'll be crocheting all of your stripes first, and then you'll do all of the vertical lines second after the entire project is finished. And that's because the vertical stripes come in by using the surface crochet method, which is really one of my favorite techniques because you can get super creative with it. We talked about it a couple episodes ago with the faux fur. That's what I did the monogramming on my pillow for. I'll have that linked in the video description just in case you want to check that out. But you can also do just vertical stripes with the surface crochet method. Now you're probably thinking there's going to be a lot of ends when you weave in, and that is one of the cons to this particular method. You will have more ends to weave in, and if you're okay with that, then you might be very okay with this method. A big pro to this method though is that it's really easy to do. It's easy to set up. There's not balls of yarn, skeins of yarn just stuck to the project, which you'll see that in some of the next methods. It's super easy. It's pretty mindless, and it'll come together. I wouldn't necessarily say quicker, but you could argue that this could be a quicker method for crocheting plaid. Okay, so moving on to the second method for crocheting plaid. That's really hard to say, surprisingly. Now moving on to method number 2 for crocheting plaid, and that is using tapestry crochet. Tapestry crochet is a really cool way of crocheting plaid that you've probably done before. You've definitely seen it before if you're on Instagram or if you're on Pinterest or anything like that. Basically, tapestry crochet allows you to use 2 colors at once. You can get away with using 3 colors at once, but it's a little bit more difficult. Using 2 primary colors, you can alternate between those 2 to create just about anything. The basis of tapestry crochet, like I said, is working with 2 different colors. You have your working color and you have your non-working color. And whenever you get to the point in your graph where you need to change colors, you'll just do that mid-stitch and work a few stitches and then move on to the next based on your pattern. Now, the main differentiating factor between tapestry crochet versus intarsia, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, is that you're working over your non-working strand. And because of that, that does bring me to the con for using this method for crocheting plaid. And that's because no matter how good you are, you can pretty much always see that non-working color underneath the stitch, especially if you're using 2 really contrasting colors. So if you've got black and white or like navy blue and white, you're going to see that through. Now, the pro to using this method is that it's really, really flexible. You can do just about anything with it, and including any type of plaid that you want. If you want to do buffalo plaid, if you want to do checks, if you want to do, I don't really know a lot of different names of plaids, but you can do just about any plaid pattern using this method. About this time last year, I crocheted an argyle hat using this method, and it was one of the most fun projects I had ever made. But I will link to that pattern if you want to give this a try. I'll have it in the video description below. It's a pretty quick make. It only takes a few hours, and it's one of my favorite hats now. I actually really love wearing it. It's worn really well. I've worn it so many times last year, and it still looks brand new. So I'll have that in the video description below. All right, so that brings me to our third and final method for crocheting plaid. And by the way, there are probably more ways than just 3 to crochet plaid, but I wanted to pinpoint the 3 that I think you'll really enjoy trying, certainly the 3 that I enjoy working with, and methods that I think will help you improve your skills. You can start with that first method. You can advance to the second method, and now we're getting into the third method. And I'm saving this one for last because it is a little bit more, we'll say, involved, but it's not necessarily harder, and that is the intarsia crochet method. I really, really like this way of crocheting plaid for one main reason, and that's because it's the cleanest, I think, of all 3 methods. So intarsia crochet is another colorwork crochet method where you use bobbins in order to create those color changes. So when you're thinking about it in terms of crocheted plaid, you have horizontal lines and you have vertical lines. That's the bottom line of what makes up a plaid pattern. So you've got these horizontal lines and you have these vertical lines. For every single color change you have, or every single vertical stripe in your plaid pattern, you need a bobbin for. So that's kind of the con to this method. It's a little more involved. So you'll have a bobbin, or really just a ball of yarn, for each one of your vertical stripes in your pattern. And as you get to the first stitch to work in the new color, you'll just do that as you normally would, where you're kind of working it through that last motion of the stitch. You'll work a few stitches in that color until you're ready to change. You'll drop that bobbin, you'll pick up the next one, work your next stitches in that color. Now the cool part is when you get to the end of the row, you flip everything and you start working back in the other direction. You're just picking up those bobbins again as you go. In target crochet, when you're working those flat pieces back and forth, you stop exactly where you pick it up once you have flipped it. So that's why I really like this method. I think it's one of the cleanest, but it is the most involved, and that's because of those bobbins. Now, I don't want that to scare you away completely, because this is a really cool way of doing any type of color work crochet, but especially for crocheting plaid. So to create a bobbin, what I will typically do is take one skein of yarn and I will think about how many pieces I need, or basically how many vertical stripes I'm going to have in that project. And each one of those stripes represents a bobbin. So let's say, for example, I'm working on a project, and this is just, I'm totally thinking of this on the top of my head. Let's say I have 4 vertical stripes that are white, I have 4 vertical stripes that are gray, and 4 vertical stripes that are this mustard color. So that is a total of 12 different vertical stripes. So that means I need 12 different bobbins. But I'm not going to create 12 bobbins in all the same color. I want to have a bobbin for each one of those stripes. So I would take my mustard skein of yarn here and I would look at the weight. I would divide that by 4 just so I'm getting kind of an exact split for that yarn. And then I would just start winding a ball. Now they do make bobbin, like little holders, like yarn holders for bobbins that you can wind these on. You can use really anything you want. You can get creative with this. I just use balls of yarn. I just wind it into a ball because it's really easy and it doesn't take any extra tools or anything like that. So there is some additional prep work if you use this method, but again, I think because the benefits are sort of outweighing that, for me, it's worth it because I want fewer ends to weave in. I don't really love seeing the color underneath like we see with tapestry crochet, and the stripes and the surface crochet method is just a completely different look. It's a great type of plaid, but you can't really use it for all types of plaid. Like if you were trying to crochet this plaid, it would be a lot more difficult. I think this might be called gingham or something. Okay, so those are the 3 methods that you will probably see crochet plaid in. You're familiar with all of those. I would recommend you just explore them. Maybe make a swatch in each one of the methods just so you can figure out which one you like, and maybe you can incorporate that into a project. Now, the question you're probably thinking is, okay, I get how to do it or what methods I can use to do it, but how do I make this chart? How do I take a design from my head, put it into something tangible that I can look at and work off of? I have a recommendation for that. There's 2 actually. So the first thing you can do, and this is total like free form, if you are a pen to paper kind of person, you might gravitate towards this method, and that's just to grab a sheet of graph paper and color it. So if you're a digital kind of person like me, you like to get things done super quick and you like the ease of working with a program online, I recommend you check out Stitch Fiddle. I will have a link to that in the video description below, but this is a really cool tool that I've only recently discovered thanks to Jess from Make and Do Crew. She was on the podcast about a year ago. Think of Stitch Fiddle like a spreadsheet that is way easier than a spreadsheet. Now, if you have ever tried to create a color graph in Excel or Google Sheets or something like that, you know what I'm talking about. It's just a nightmare. You can do it, but it's not easy. It's not easy to fix mistakes or, change your mind about anything. Well, Stitch Fiddle is none of those things. You will go in, you set your parameters, and you tell it how many stitches wide you want, how many rows tall you want it. From there, you can set your colors. So we said before we were working with white, gray, and mustard. Then you would set those 3 colors in your little palette over to the side. And anytime you want to create a, let's say, mustard stitch, you just click on your little mustard color swatch, and every cell or every block you click on will turn that color. Well, let's say you make a mistake and you colored one yellow or mustard and it was supposed to be gray. Click on your little gray color swatch and just click on that block that you want to be gray. And that is why I love this program so much. It's so easy to create a design, to change a design, to fix a design. Like Stitch Fiddle is really, really good. So again, I'll have a link to that in the video description below if you want to give it a try for your next project or if you're planning a plaid crochet design. All right, so there you have it. That is 3 different methods for making crochet plaid. That is how to set up the bobbins, a little bit more information on intarsia because that one we haven't really covered here before. And then of course, some tips on how you can create those color charts and graphs and that sort of thing. Now your question of the day is, what topic or what specific question do you have about crochet or knitting that you would like me to cover in the next episode? Now, because that is happening next week, I need you to respond and drop your suggestion in the comment section below as quickly as possible so that I can prepare an episode that is specifically something that you and the community needs. Now, the way that works is it will be totally random. I will likely select a topic or a question that has not been covered here before and a topic or a question that is frequently asked. I want to help as many people as I possibly can. So if somebody adds a suggestion in the community, feel free to give that a thumbs up. That will be my indicator that more and more people would like to know about that topic. Okay, so let me know that in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to check out the video description for a link to Lion Brand Woolies yarn. Really, seriously, give this stuff a consideration when planning out some of your fall projects and winter projects. It's a really warm and soft yarn. It's something that I really enjoy using, and I think you will too. All right, now that'll do it for this episode of B.Hooked TV. Thank you so much for tuning in, and if you haven't subscribed already, I would love for you to consider doing that so that I can help you get better at your craft, and I'll see you next week.